69.
I know. We went in '68. You're quite right. We went in '68 to Israel. He went in '69. So he was carrying the baby from Cape Town, and he had to see to it that my father was taken to Cape Town. That's quite right. That's quite right.
Yeah.
That's right. Quite right. Yeah. So we can start from there.
Mm.
Yeah. He was really the big brother of the family, worried about everybody. See, that all comes out with the shop that they bought in Wynberg, where Margie worked, and then in Sydney worked for him in salt sales.
Yes.
And he always found a place for my father to be in the office, and, and things like that.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's a pity. All right, let's go. We're going to Israel now.
Yeah.
Hirsch is in Cape Town, and he's left with a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we repeat what we said the last few words? In 1967, end of 1967, we had our first holiday overseas. Mickey had never been out of South Africa and Southwest Africa, and we decided that we would go to Israel before we came back to South Africa, because she knew that if we went there first, we might not get further than that. Anyway, when we came back, we decided that we are going to emigrate to Israel, and we went to say goodbye to the family in Cape Town and then to Southwest Africa, and Opa and Oma came to Johannesburg, to Pretoria, to stay with Annette and to say goodbye to us there. Opa got ill, and he was in the hospital when we left. He died 6 weeks after we left South Africa. I wanted to go back to the funeral. I really didn't want to, but I felt it was my duty to go back, and my mother and Hirsch decided that it wasn't necessary. I shouldn't do that. I was in the Ulpan, I was learning Hebrew and so on, and it would interfere with my difficulties of moving to Israel. Then Hirsch was left with the baby. He was still in Cape Town, and he had to arrange for all the problem of taking my sick father by plane to Cape Town and to a nursing home in Cape Town, and where he eventually died 6 months later. And then he was always the big brother. He was always there for his sisters and for his and for the rest of the family. Always, he was always busy trying to see what he can do for everybody in the family. When he had other businesses, Margie worked for him, Sydney worked for him, and but he always made them feel comfortable working, that they were the best employees that he could have had, and so on. He would always mention Sydney was a very good salesman, and so on. He would do that. Then they moved to Johannesburg, and then my mother died, and I came out to South Africa because and she was in the Grootskeur hospital, and I decided I'm coming now because I'm not waiting for a funeral. And I was able to get away there. It was no great problem. I had a chap who stood in for me. I had a couple of colleagues that stood in for me, and I went to South Africa. And when I arrived in Cape Town, we decided to take her out of the hospital. There was nothing for her to do, by which time she was already living with Joyce. She was living with Joyce, and we stayed with her, and then Pesach of that year, she died. Then also after she died, the same day after the funeral, I left to go home, and Hirsch stayed on, for the Shiva and all that. He cared for the family. That was his business. He had so much adversity in his life. First of all, his dyslexia, his eyes and his dyslexia. Then he was in business. Then they moved to England after that. Then we used to see more of him. We used to stay with him wherever he was. It was easier for us to come in, to accommodate him first in Swiss Cottage and afterwards in the big house somewhere else. Where was it?
Edgware.
Yeah. And then we saw more of each other.
Yeah.
And he and Joyce came to Israel.
Of course, Eileen was living there, so.
Ah, yes, that's right. Well, that time Eileen was
So
living
they
there,
come
and
once a
so we
year.
were seeing more of each other.
Yeah.
That's right. Then Joyce got ill. Then they were already living in the big house in what's called. We visited them before Joyce got ill. We visited them several times, and was able to come and have a holiday. And the kids came as well.
But you were also his second opinion, weren't you?
Oh yes, he always relied on me.
The fax machine was always hot.
Yeah.
When a doctor had given some diagnosis or something or a prescription, it was
he
a
always
fax to
checked up
Hymie,
with me.
just a Hymie check to see if he's got the right diagnosis.
Yes, it was really
X-rays. Let's fax them to Israel.
Yes,
before the internet.
That was long before the internet. Yes, not that I could have given better advice. All I had to say is that's the best thing that could have done. That's the best medicine. That's the best everything. And after your mother died, we became even closer, somehow. And then of course he became ill. No, he became ill before your mother died.
With the
cancer of the esophagus.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that was the time that you were leaving the business, and it was very difficult for him at that time. But he overcame that as well, and he had every bloody complication that he could have had after that operation. He couldn't speak, he couldn't breathe, but he went to singing classes, he went to exercises, he fought it always fighting it. When everybody asked him how he was doing very well. He was just an example to everybody that you must be optimistic, and you've got to not wait for something to happen. You've got to be active. You've got to try and do something to help it along. It doesn't happen by itself. So it was an example to everybody, I think, and that's why he had an ability to contact people. He loved people. When he used to come to me to Israel, there were always people he wanted to visit. There were always people that he just loved people, and people loved him. He was really a